up on today's show, part 13 and the penultimate episode of the Hind video build, really coming together now, so we're adding all the final details on this one. Aerials on the Hind, we're going to be talking about how to attach aerials using elastic thread and how to detail them. Live show update, we've got a live show next week, we'll be talking about those and the future of the live shows. New logo, yes, Flory Models Girl has arrived, the new logo for Flory Models, so we'll be talking about that. We've got two reviews for you this week. We've got the Kitty Hawk F35 148 scale review, and we've got the 148 scale Cougar by Kitty Hawk as well. Plus the fact we've got your amazing work from the Tiger SIG. Hello, welcome to Flory Models. I'm Flory. As you know, quite a busy week this week. Starting off with the Hind, finished this one off actually on Monday. The final parts all went through on this one. You guys who are with me on Facebook and that would have seen it. Really enjoyed this build. It's been a lot of fun. We've covered a lot of things we haven't done before. Certainly a lot of the weathering techniques. Hopefully, you know, you'll be able to take it away and develop or learn from and all the rest of it. But needless to say, I've really enjoyed this one. It's been a lot of fun putting this one together. You're up to part 13 now, so that's the sort of penultimate episode for this. There's one more episode to go up, which will go up next week, which will complete it. That's going to talk about a little bit more of the weathering and everything else like that, really. And then the last part is really bringing it all together, all the little bits and pieces on there, and then obviously the final reveal at the end. So that's up now, up on the site, and as I said, one more part to go after this one, and then you're on with it. Tornado, to be honest, has started in the paint bay. We've got it over here. I've got to move it over here to show you on the more detailed cameras, but as you can see, the actual grey work is on this one now. It needs to be bleached and weathered and everything else like that, but we're going to do something a little bit different with this particular one. The next part of this one probably won't be up till Tuesday next week, but what we're going to do is we're going to not pre-shade this. We're going to post-shade it instead of pre-shading it to do all the weathering, because obviously it's going to be now that great RAF sort of, you know, 1970s wraparound camo and everything else like that. So that's the plan with that one. So that was coming along, so I started painting that one yesterday, and then obviously moving through. So loads of things coming up. To be honest, I did have every intention today of starting on the HE111. Obviously it's a big old build and everything else like that, but as we'll explain in a moment, something sort of cropped up this week, which has sort of taken a bit of my time. So that thing being said, we just moved the Hind very carefully out of the way because I don't want to whack it. And so far I've only managed to knock the rear door off twice, which is a bit of a thing. A lot of you know, obviously I'm wearing it here. The members in the site, you know all about this one over on the forum. We're actually changing our logo. We've had the traditional Flory Models logo now, which is one up here, for the best part of, that one there and that guys is now the last 5 years, which was just a sort of evolution from the old one, which was from 5 years before that. So we've been with it for 10 years. We wanted to do something a little bit more sort of colourful and things like that. Now, Alan, who is the guy who did that great caricature picture of me and everything else, and kindly made a donation into the Snap auction, and Steve got talking, and basically they came up with this. So this is our new logo. You're going to be seeing this absolutely on everything, barring the sanding sticks and the wash just for the moment. We've got some exciting news about that coming up in a few weeks' time. But for the moment, obviously, if you see this logo, this is our new official logo. This is the Flory's Girl, or as she's being commonly known now by a lot of the members as Phyllis, everything else. So you're going to be seeing a lot of her. Obviously, a lot of you are asking about merchandise. So we have the badges, which they came in, to be honest, last week. You guys who are with me for the live show, Saturday as in tomorrow, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to be emailing you all to send out your little badges for joining us. Purely because I haven't had time this week, if I'm honest. Really been caught up with this one. Needless to say, because of this one, it is a lovely piece of artwork. I think you agree. It's a stunning picture. So we want to make this into a range of bits and pieces. It's going to be like a merchandising thing for us. So what we've actually done, we have got mouse mats, we've got mugs, two-sided mugs with her on, we've got obviously pens, which we've always done with Flory Models, we've got stickers coming, window car stickers you've seen, we've also got a calendar like this. I'm working on something else with Alan at the moment, actually, for perhaps a bigger, more colourful calendar featuring Flory Girl in various things, okay, for next year's calendar as well. So two types of calendar and everything else like that. But needless to say, it's quite exciting. You guys have loved it. We've got other things coming in the pipeline. We've got cloth patches being done with it, and I'm even looking into having World War II bomber jackets with this painted on the back, okay, like the traditional World War II ones and everything else. There is a little bit of history behind this. There is actually a B-17G who was called Flory, and she had that particular font painted on the side of the nose. Obviously not this bit, it was just in that type of font, so that's where we've got that one from. But again, it's a beautiful bit of artwork, something we're really excited about, and everything else like that. So if you do start noticing Flory Girl popping up everywhere, that's the reason why. It is our new logo, and obviously we're going to be pushing it through. So that's why it's going to start here on the main site, obviously on all our social networking, my own logos and things like that. So purely that's what that is all about, in case you're wondering. But as I said, full range is coming out. Obviously the high-res versions are on the site and in the forum as well, if you do want to grab one yourself and turn it into your screensavers and various things like that. Have you been asking? Of course you can. You're more than welcome to use it. So there we go. That is Flory Girl. As I said, we're very excited about this one. We've got a big launch coming up for Telford with Flory Girl, with all her bits and pieces and everything else like that. So hopefully it will be very exciting times and everything else. Obviously I've been trying to keep this slightly under wraps, but it's sort of come out now. The company, as you know it, is splitting up into two. We're having the sales side and the manufacturing of the wash and the sanders and everything else. They are going to be a separate company to what I do here. Okay, now the idea with this is to basically free me up and get me back to the bit I love, which is the modelling side. Okay, so we've now got full-time staff are going to be working, manning and doing everything for the actual sales side of it, which frees me and another guy who's coming in to join me in the studio and everything else like that to produce, make and do filming and editing and everything else like that to make this side of it even better. So although we are one big happy family, we are split in two now, which will happen in a few months time. So we are going through that little bit of progress between the two. So it shouldn't affect anything. If anything, it should be better for everybody, because you're going to get more videos out of me, hopefully better quality. I'm upgrading various systems. The camera is going to be upgraded here. We're having the lighting systems going to be all upgraded and everything else like that. Hopefully you'll be able to get some great guests and people in here to sort of interact with us and everything else and things like that. And obviously the live shows, which we'll be covering in a moment, that's our new side of things that we're developing and bringing in and everything else like that. So as you said, really exciting times for between now and Christmas. Obviously this is all going to fall into place, hopefully, and we're all going to do really, really well. But now we're having sort of full-time staff coming in. It's going to basically take the workload of all the sales side of things off of my back personally, and then obviously it can go to them, which is great, because as I said, the modelling has suffered terribly with everything. As you guys know, when things are small you can do everything yourself, and I've got to that stage in life now where it's all too much. I'm literally just chasing my tail week after week after week, and it's not allowing me to develop new products and new techniques and everything else like that. So by having a little bit of a step back, and now I can get a breather, hopefully we can push things on and develop things. So I want to try new things, new camera angles, new cameras especially. I want to try new various things on the internet, as you know already, to really sort of develop this and to develop Flory models into the ultimate package, which I know most of you know we are anyway, but in case you're in any doubt, we are really going to push on. We're going to make a massive investment in basically money and capital into the company to bring you the very best you can get, and that's basically our goal, as you know. But it's not going to affect anybody, so don't panic about sales. There's no prices going up. There's a rumour going around at one point we're sticking all the prices up. Rubbish. If you remember, you're even going to be better off, because we're going to be doing better deals for members with the new company, the way they're setting themselves up and everything else like that. So from that point of view, everyone's going to be a winner. So don't panic about the changes in the logo, the company splitting into two and everything else. As you know, users of our products, or certainly members of our site, you will get a far better service at the end of the day, and that's what we're trying to do here. So that's the news from there. The other big news is obviously the live shows. They were a massive success when we did them, which was almost 2 weeks ago now. It's a week ago today was the last show. I love doing it. It's as simple as that. It was great for me to have people with me as well in the studio, instead of just doing sort of one-on-one like this, and then having you guys as well on my screen, as you now will know where you are. You all sit over there, and I could interact too. We had a lot of fun with that. As an average, we had around about 300 live people interacting with us throughout the evenings. I enjoyed myself. All right, I didn't get anything built. Literally, it's down here. I'm going to keep it there, and then each time we do the live shows, I'll get it up. But luckily for me, Sid, who, you know, he was here on the Wednesday and Thursday. You can watch him. If you're not a member, you can actually see our Thursday show, which we went on for almost 3 hours. You know, he's going to join me and do the live shows with me, and he's going to be helping me out in the studio as well. So that's absolutely great. So me and him will be back, and our first kick-off of our proper shows, if you like, is going to be actually this this coming Tuesday night. It's going to be 7 o'clock British Summer Time, and it's going to run for about 2 to 3 hours as it normally does. Members, obviously you will see this either directly in the forum via the live streaming area in the forum, or you can get to it via the live streaming page on the actual main site, where you've got the integrated chat and forum box is on that page as well, so you can get to us all in one spot. So you guys who are saying about how do you scroll through the pages and watch at the same time, your best bet is go onto the main site, live streaming area, and you can actually see us at the top of the screen in glorious HD and everything else like that. And then obviously down below you've got the chat areas and everything else where you can interact with other members or direct with us on air and everything else. What does this mean? Hopefully for the future we're going to be pushing on with really an interactive thing. What I'm trying to do with this is bring everybody in here at the end of the day. I know you guys love coming in here, and I do get a lot of members in here, and you come in for a day or a half a day and everything else, and we chat and model and all the rest of it. But what I'm trying to do is that thing where you're not close enough to do it, that literally you can be here. So we're going to be using 1, 2, maybe even 3 webcams, so you can actually be part of us in here. And then if you're on a webcam as well and you've got good quality, we can talk to you about obviously your builds, what you're doing, any problems you've got, and everything else like that. So also I tend to do airbrushing courses online. A lot of you want to watch the airbrushing courses as we're doing it live. Well, obviously, you know, guys have, one, they've paid money to be here and all the rest of it. Secondly, you know, I can only devote myself to so much time. My idea is, what I want to do though is actually do a online live course with you guys. Okay, all you're going to need to do is basically have a webcam and an audio feed, and I'm going to then do basically days where I'll sit here and go through it and move on. We've also got great things as well. We want to do various little things that we spoke about, like we're planning on doing things like a build-a-thon, 24 hours, me and a group of guys in here, 24 hours, so you can come in and watch us and everything else, little charity things like that. We're going to do live shows as well as obviously recorded shows and all those things in between. So hopefully it's just going to be a lot more interactive, a lot more fun and everything else. So you don't just get me sitting here. Hopefully I'm going to have special guests. I want to get some people from the modelling world who I know very well in here as well. And if we can't get them in here, is then to join them live in their studios, and we can do that. And then obviously all these shows that will be live will also be recorded, and when they're recorded, obviously they'll be put on archived and you can watch them at any point and make our way through. So again, massive difference to absolutely everything. But again, my big thing is I'm going to be in here 5 days a week modelling instead of currently my 2.5 days as it works at the moment, doing paperwork and all the other bits. So brilliant job, really enjoying that one. So that's the news and gossip really, in a nutshell. So talking of the Hind, talking about, a lot of people ask about how I do wiring and aerials and everything else like that. Let's have a look. Lots of different ways to do this. There's lots of companies that will sell you proper stuff and everything else. Obviously you could use standard cotton thread, using the same technique as I'm going to show you here. You can use things like Easy Line, which is a stretched elastic which is round, or you can do my way. Now if you haven't seen my video on doing rigging on the Winged Wings 1/32 Sopwith triplane, and you want to know more about this, then obviously have a look at that video, because it shows in depth everything else for doing rigging and wiring and everything else like this. This is a little bit more for aerials, which is slightly different. There's a little techniques to go with it. Now this is standard knitting in elastic. This is what you put into with wool, which gives you elastic in your socks, your cuffs, things like that. It's dirt cheap. It's literally just a couple of pounds for this massive spool, which is 200 meters, which will last you probably 10 lifetimes. The reason I like this stuff is it's got minimal stretch, it dries with super glue very nicely, and it's got a little technique which I do with using basically metallizer paints, where it will shrink when it's obviously confronted by using that particular material. Now, what I tend to do is literally super glue it and tack it into position, and then we'll go around with a clear PVA glue to weld it properly and fix it. The thing is, the secret to this is the minimum amount of glue you can get away with. The reason for that is this particular stuff doesn't like super glue that much. It tends to curl up on itself if it's got too much on there. So you place it exactly where you want it, and then once you're on, you can put it in there. It will set almost instantly, and then you can pull it to where you want, set it in that position, and then trim it up all afterwards. Now what I've done, you might be able to see down here, we've already fitted one. I've got one here which would do to the other side. So other little trick, always use more than you need because let's face it, you've got tons of the stuff and it's easier to work with a long length of it than it is something short. So again, we're working on the principles of touch and then flow it in. So I've got a little pool of super glue just out of shot. Okay, we're just going to come in and we're just going to pop a little bit just down in that section down there. Now it does have a curl to it, the way it's wound up on the spool. Okay, so let that work with you. Okay, so we're just going to come in and we're just going to stick that in, and we're having the wire coming upwards. Okay, and then what you want to do is let it dry facing the direction it goes. I.e., you don't want it be facing laying down one side when you want it to go up, because otherwise it's going to go along like that. Okay, because the super glue will slightly track along the length of it. But again, you should be okay. Now that's dried just about right actually. So what we can do is just shorten that one just a little bit, nothing too short. Good pair of sharp scissors as well. Now, you might be able to see, I know it's all a little bit tricky, but we've got the other one which we put on and started on the end. Okay, again, we're just going to grab a little bit of super glue, which has been drying a few moments just to make it a little bit more tacky and not as runny as some of the others. So we're just going to grab a good old length because we want plenty of it. Okay, and then what you can do is obviously exactly the same, working with that the way it's rolled. Okay, we're just going to come on, we're just going to hold it roughly into position, exactly where we want it. Okay, and that's it. So they're on there now drying. Now what you could obviously do is come along now and put a little bit of white glue on there just to totally weld it in position. Now I'm in a little bit of a rush because I'm trying to show you guys. What we're going to do is just going to take this one and lay it out of the way. So this will be, I'll do that afterwards. Again, it's a bit tricky grabbing this stuff. I'm just going to hold it because I want it up and over. Now this guy is going to come back to down here. Okay, I'll just move this over, you can see. So this one's going to go from here all the way down and it's going to come to this end. Okay, so what we're going to do is just going to take it and you can lay it over, okay, and roughly work out where it's going to be. So we're just going to grab some super glue, just a little bit on there. Now don't pull it too hard, but obviously you want it to be taut. So that's it, all we're going to do, place a little bit in there and we're just going to pull it downwards. Just a little bit until it's got its bite, and as you can probably see it's just on there and it's holding itself. So you can obviously come along and snip it a little bit shorter. We're going to trim it up with a razor blade afterwards, which is something I'll show you. Now when you look at reference photos, often you can see various lumps and bumps on them and things like that. Well, that's all things you can do with PVA glue. This particular one, what happens is it's got like a join on it. So what we're going to do is just going to grab a little bit of super glue roughly in the area where we want it. So we want the two to join, and this is why you always leave a little extra. Okay, and we're just going to wrap one over the other just like this, so it's just pulling against itself, and we'll let that dry in that position so it gives the effect of the cable is coming up and touching the other one, and obviously we'll cut it shorter and everything else. What I like to do now is grab a little bit of crystal clear. The idea of crystal clear is it's a little bit better, so we're just going to put a little touch of it, just a dab on the top, and we're going to put a dab just down the back here, just to sort of seal it all in, a dab where it connects. Okay, and that will give you a lump. Now if you look at them, you'll notice you get lumps as these come along, so you can do that with a little bit of PVA glue. Sometimes you can get away with one, other times you need a little bit more, but you put a little ball on it just like that. Hopefully you can see. Once it's dry you can paint it black and away you go. Okay, so that is it. It's that easy. Okay, so have a look down at your references. We're just going to have a quick look at our references on this one so we can see exactly how they are. We've got some nice reference shots here somewhere of these cables. So you might be able to see this here in the middle is what we've tried to recreate. So we're going to have that little cup. As you can see, that is literally just on there. Very, very simple. And then at the other end, this is this guy here. You can see we've got it on there, and this is obviously for taking out the slack and all that area. So again, we can do that. We're just going to grab a little bit of PVA glue, just clean off the cocktail stick. Okay, on here we know it's about here. So if you do a bubble top and bottom, roll the cocktail stick, you can put it in. So we've got that one in there, that one in there, just like that. So there we go, it's that simple. Let those dry, you paint them up, you have great looking cables and wires. Still needs painting, and I'll show you that once these bits are dry. So bear with me, I'll get the other side done. A few little other bits and pieces I've just got to put on this one just to finish it off, and we can come together for actually painting it up and ready for the reveal. Okay, so we've waited about half an hour, and if you look down now, we can see basically dry. This one's a little bit different to the other one, but I'm going to let it run and see what it looks like when it's painted. Okay, so for this we got here, this is the non-buffing type. Okay, so this isn't a buffable, this is literally just a metallizer, and we're going with exhaust. The reason we're going for exhaust, it's the darkest one I've got that isn't a buffing one. Okay, now this is where it all gets a bit scary if you've never done it before. So basically all you do, grab your paint, load up your brush. Okay, just be careful where you go, and then just run it across your cables. Now don't panic too much. So I've just got this slipped in when it all goes a bit saggy, okay, and it will, because when it dries it all pulls up and goes really, really tight again. So don't worry too much about it. So we're just going to touch in the ends. Okay, so that's that side done. Don't know if I can get to the other one without making a hash of it, but we'll have a go. But because you're using a metallizer, it's great because it wraps all the way around the thread and everything else like that. Okay, the capillary action works well in your favour and should give you a really, really nice finish. Taking a bit of a risk doing it this way. Okay, just make sure you do the blobs. There we go. I don't know how well that's coming out on camera, but from my point of view that is absolutely perfect. So we just pop that out of the way. Okay, take a life of the hand picking this thing up. Hopefully you can see, if I just get a sheet of white card, plays havoc with the things, that hopefully you can see we've got those on there. Now you can see how those bumps come alive. So obviously you can make it as big or as little as you like when you're going over this to really add depth to the actual wiring itself. So when you get those joins and everything else, and if you want to be clever, and obviously this is one of those things you can go on and on for, you can actually go around and make them different colours, shades, widths and all those different things just by layering up PVA glue. But there we go, hopefully we can see, as I say, it's one of these things. There's our eyes and our mouth with our engine and absolutely everything else like that, and that brings us to a finish. Okay, so there we go, that's aerials and wiring. As I said, you know me with modelling, I like to try and keep it as simple as possible by getting the most sort of effective appearance, okay, and I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. Knitting in elastic, which is up here I do believe somewhere, whatever I've done with it, it is absolutely great stuff. Sorry, put it down somewhere. Very, very cheap, couple of quid. You can buy it off eBay, you can go into your local haberdashery or sort of, you know, anything that does sort of textiles and things like that. Just call it knitting in wool, they will know what it is, and you can use it like that. There is other products as well, which I must admit I thought I had up here, but obviously I clearly don't now. But you can also buy things like Easy Line, stuff like that, roughly do the same thing. The great thing with Easy Line is you can get it in different thicknesses, where this is one shot, does everything. I think if you pull it longer, you'll get it thinner. Obviously the less you pull it, the thicker it will be and everything else. The great thing I like about using elastics, as I said in there, if you knock them, they don't ping off. And for years I used to use threads and cotton. I used to wax cotton threads and things like that, which is great until you flick it and it pings off. At least with these, you can knock them and they go. And at the end of the day, I've got stuff floating around. To be honest, like the Wingnut Wings one's a couple of years old now, it's still as good as the day I used it. So a lot of people say about they sag over time and everything else. I'm sure they do, it's not going to last forever, but it's a couple of years up there, and it is in light as well. It's not like in the dark up there, and it's absolutely fine. But it'd be very, very easy to replace it. So that's the point with that one. But as I said, there's more on that for the members. When you watch obviously the next part of that, it will cover that in a lot more detail than what you've seen just there, as well as all the other weathering effects with that one. Anyway, kit review time. Kitty Hawk. As I said, we always seem to have something with Kitty Hawk, and lo and behold, we've got no instructions for the F-35C. But never mind, let's have a look at the review anyway. Okay, kit review time. Today we've got the 1/48 scale Kitty Hawk. This is the Lightning II, the F-35C version is in the Navy. Obviously lots of controversy about this actual aircraft in real life. From a modelling point of view, there's a little bit as well, because quite frankly the first one was seen to be a little bit of a rush release, shall we say. The instructions weren't exactly brilliant and didn't exactly add up, and some of the part fits as well were particularly short of nasty. Great if you were having everything deployed, but certainly with everything closed up there was a lot of fit issues. So we're hoping that this may be a sort of new tool, or certainly an upgraded version. This is the Navy's one. The Navy's one is more like your traditional carrier-borne aircraft, like your F-18, something else like that. As in, it uses a steam catapult, which no doubt will turn into an electric catapult at some point, and traditional arrestor hook on the back and everything else. Because of this, it's a bigger aircraft. The wing area is a lot bigger than the normal F-35, the B, which is the Stovall type short takeoff and landing version, than obviously what we've got here. Because of this, we're sort of hoping that they might have been able to tweak quite easily some of the problems that there was before, because obviously a lot of those problems were things like, as I say, things not closing up particularly well. Well, a lot of this doesn't have them. We imagine this is going to have a totally new back on it and everything else, and a new wing set, purely because they are a lot bigger. So straight off the bat, very nice box art, some nice drawing down in here. It's calling now their Elite series, which seems to be something they're going along. Detail and scale, got their name on here again, obviously doing the research for it and everything else. Looking around the box, we have got your traditional type of things down in here about obviously the F-35C. This is number 1 from VFA 101. Okay, very famous, known as the Grim Reapers. The kit number on this one is KH80132. And then text down on here, we've got a little bit more. It's saying it's a 2014 release is what you look for, and everything else. So inside the box, which does feel quite chunky, not a lot of movement in here. So your traditional flip up box. I'll pop that down out of the way. Immediately looking at it, as you can see, we've got, well, I don't know really what I was expecting, but I'm not massively impressed with immediately how this is sort of laid out. If I'm honest, it looks like they're just in bags and chucked in here. So we've got quite thin, scratched up. You can see there's been lots of movement around these and all the rest of it. We do have an image in here. For some reason the canopy's been chucked in amongst all of this, which amazingly has not been scratched up, but there's no protection on that whatsoever. And then these guys. So we have little bits of plastic falling out. Okay, so in the box we've actually got usual detail and scale gum. Okay, we've got, as you can see, a lump of photo etch running around in here, which looks like obviously something for the engine. This is going to be the actual framework around the bars of it. I assume if you could flick that over, that might be the ring. As I say, it's in here upside down, but I don't really want to get it out because, to be honest, it's not my kit. Okay, so Grim Reaper's markings. We've also got Northrop's bits and pieces down here, as you can see. They look all right, they just look a little bit patchy. Okay, I'm not sure if anybody is involved in the development of the decals. It certainly doesn't say it anywhere on the sheet, but usual thing, we've got the markings as well for the different nationalities taking place. We've got a single decal, which you can see just down here, which would be for your instrument panel and everything else. But it's nice to see the Grim Reapers stepped back up. So let's have a look in the bags. As I said, it's not the best packaging in the world, and I'll be honest, it's one of those things you've sort of been let down in the past with their kits, so I'm just hoping this is something a little bit special, shall we say. So my immediate thoughts are, I don't know, it's a funny plastic. It's a new type of plastic to me, and I know that sounds really anarchy and all the rest of it now, but as I say, when you deal with model kits, you have a certain expectation. So certainly when you do an Airfix kit, you know it's going to be like a Tallery, Hasegawa, Tamiya. You know the type of plastics you're going to get. And the last ones we've reviewed of Kitty Hawk were things like the Voodoo. They were really thick and heavy. This seems to be a step to the more crisp, hard plastic. It's, you know, really solid, gritty plastic. Pretty much a smooth coat on here. We've got some problems admittedly off the bat. You probably see here on the close-up we've got ejector pin release marks, or these are the actual injection parts where it gets squirted in. Now that doesn't matter when it's there, but when it's on here they're alright pain to clean out. But you can probably see a lot of this surface detail working around here and everything else. you know, it's there, it's just a little bit, I don't know, it's not as sharp as perhaps you would want it. It's a little bit soft. Like down here is a classic example. I know it's a horrible colour, playing havoc now with my cameras, but you might be able to see this guy here. It's just sort of faded in a bit. It's not as sharp yet. This side is okay. So this side's quite faded in as it goes around this corner. This one on here is actually quite sharp, and you can actually follow it with your nail around there. Generally leading up on here, these are quite nice. All of these seem to be okay. It does need to be slightly raised without being too raised, this stuff. It's like another laminate layer being put on top of the actual fuselage, which it actually is. But certainly it's a better way of doing it. It's not as defined as some kits we've seen recently. Again, we've got the little lock points for the canopy down here. Looks to be quite nice. On the inside, nicely enough, we've actually got sunken ejector pin marks. They're quite flush, quite nice. Certainly a step in the right direction. Underside, it's always going to be complicated under here with everything that goes on. Again, it just seems to be these bits here are really raised where the other ones on the top weren't. There's definitely an inconsistency between the two. These are a lot more sharper, a lot more raised than the others. We've got various bits of flash going on. You might be able to see it down in here, and everything else as you go through. You know, we've got little problems all over it, but generally I have to say, apart from that one's a bit close, the ejector pin is almost punched straight through it again. It does seem to be a better mould, quality of plastic and everything else than what we've seen before. Okay, so here's the wingies and things. So this one's just a staple bag. Now, I was sort of hoping that what would happen is you'd have a one piece across the top to do this one. Obviously, clearly it's not, it's down there, so you're going to have these seams to going all over it. Now, this is how they do it out of the mould. This is actually one piece, but what they do is, whilst it's still hot, they bend it together. So it comes out of the mould literally like this, and then somebody goes, thank you, whilst it's still soft. So you have to break it apart to get it open. Okay, so if we start on the top, we've actually got down in here. So unfortunately, the phantom pin has reared its ugly head all over this kit again. And it's where you sort of take a step, you know, at this point I'm literally going, shit. Because it was going quite well, now we're falling apart. So we've got the usual stress ejector pins, which has even bent the plastic on this one here, of where they're trying to get it out of the mould. I assume it's where they're trying to push it out too quick and it's still really soft. They just need to wait a few more seconds to let this go off in the mould before they come out. And I know I'm no injection moulding expert here, but we've got plenty of flash around the outsides. Admittedly, that's an easy clean up and everything else. And the general bits is just that this entire sprue, as you can see, has got you know, mould marks all over it. So on the underside, they are incredibly close. The only thing that's quite nice is that they are flush almost. That one's a little bit raised, so you're going to have to knock this guy back here. Some of these you might be okay, but it might be worth just sanding these out to make sure they're flush. This one under here, again, I've got a feeling you're going to have to sand just down in here to make a nice fit for where that one goes on, and everything else. But you know, it's just, I don't know, just a little bit more care, guys. That's all you need to do. Generally, getting back on track, if you catch it in the light, you can see you've got beautiful riveting under here, which is one thing. Does it have riveting? I thought it was composite materials, a bit like the RAF Typhoons or the Eurofighter Typhoons, i.e. there isn't a rivet on it, it's all one. This is covered in rivets. Does it really covered in rivets? Having never been up to one of these, apart from the mock-up, I wouldn't know, but I wouldn't have thought it would have been riveted right the way over everything. I could be wrong. So there we go. Shoot me a PM and let me know. Okay, the other side itself, again, it's quite nice. We've got various details here, especially some nice joining detail. It's very sharp, so we've actually got some nice ones going on here. There's detail down the back here of actually these, I presume they're access panels into the wing system. They're very nice as well. Okay, the main flaps coming in, stress marks, but they're okay. The trailing edge ones, again, pretty nice all over it. Can't complain with any of that. It's such a shame that it's almost so close. They're almost there, but no cigar. Okay, so next up we've got weapons fit and internals. So we haven't looked at the instructions first this time, so we're doing it a bit back to front, but we can have a look. We've got some nice detail here, so we've got the nice sawtooth edges. I assume that is for the exhaust area just around the back. We've got these guys here, which I'm not 100% sure what they are. Looks like some type of flap system. We've got their GPS guided bombs, which are actually quite nice. Very nice sharp detail on them, some nice mould markings, everything else. Flat doors, again, looking quite nice. The tub itself, raised detail, pretty minimal, but to be honest, as most people know in this one, it's all touchscreen and everything else, so no problems with that. We've got this hatching for the engines, which is pretty much spot on. Small parts, although the gates are very, very chunky of how it actually attaches to the sprue, aren't too bad at all. Looks like the instrument panel's had a knock at some point because it's pretty stressed out. Okay, and the instrument cover panel doesn't look too bad at all. These intakes, very shallow ejector pins in there you might need to take care of depending on how you want to do it. Some of this piping work, which we're going to go in the actual bomb bays itself, looks pretty good. Generally the small parts are very nicely moulded, no problem with them at all. These little electronics boxes, again, they're a nice touch, very nicely moulded, so no problem with that one. The bays themselves, obviously this is the main weapons bay, as you can see. Sparse detail, but you've got the ribbing in there. You've got all the starting points if you like to go through it. There is aftermarket weapons bays available for this. Okay, I can't remember off the top of my head who it is. I do believe it's a Japanese company. They've done the weapons bays for these and done an amazing job of it. They really do look nice, and I will be picking up a set for when I do mine. I presume internal doors, things like that. They look a little bit ejector pinny and everything else. Again, these intakes looking down, you can see we've got ejector pins in there. Depends how far you really want to look down it and everything else. Yeah, not too bad at all. Happy with that. That's actually a nice sprue. Okay, so back in the business end, we've got the engine down here. So it looks like we get to build the engine, even though we're never going to see it. And we've got, again, it's a one piece in two. What is now. Okay, so Woolwell Bay, very nicely done, some nice detail in there. Generally all this detail across here is pretty good, so you've got some nice detail going in. We've got some nicer ones on these panels, and then coming through, I presume this is the nose wheel bay, again not too bad at all. The fan, it's a nice crisp fan as well, going right the way through. These are the sway bay bottoms to these, the actual main pylons themselves. We've got some sidewinders down there, the new generation X's, they look quite nice as well. I'm hoping there's a little bit to go on the back of the sidewinders. We'll have to look at that because it looks like they haven't got the actual movement things on there. Okay, so again, we got a pair of bam rams, bays at the top, as you can imagine. Then we're into this engine section, so we've got another bay there. The nozzle actually looks pretty good, if we're honest here. That's actually a very nice touch. It's very sharp, very crisp. That's the type of thing we like. Something we haven't seen in modelling for a while. We've got a pilot with separate arms and head, and he has a sort of, the helmet looks a little bit wrong, if I'm honest, but it's, you know, obviously we're not sure when this was done. Okay. Seat itself, some more of the little covers for the back of the engines and everything else. Sway brace, control stick, looks nice, and we've got this throttle on the other side, which is a bit like nothing. And that is the thing we're missing. We don't have any instructions. That's why we haven't looked at it. I've just noticed. Where's the instructions? We have no instructions. Right, now this could be one of two things. Either Kitty Hawker forgot to put the instructions in with the kit, which, you know, who knows, or John, whose kit this is, he's had the instructions out and failed to put them back in for the purposes of review. So, never mind. Okay, so what have we got here? This is where it gets a bit interesting. So obviously we've got common sprues. I presume this is the sprues then which is correct for this particular kit versus the other ones, purely because when you look at this sprue, as you can see, we've got a lot of gear work on here. It has a heavier gear than obviously for the V-Stall version. Straight off the bat you can see we've got some real problems there almost coming through. In fact, that one has completely come through and I can feel it, so that's going to need to be very carefully taken care of because unfortunately the ejector pin has gone straight through. Okay, so it's gone through that one's close, that one you can feel it as well, and there's a nasty sink mark on it in it. Sorry to say, that one's really stressed. Okay, but here we go, we've got the gear down here, so you've got a far heavier gear for the nose wheel than obviously you get normally. We've got a different cockpit. I'm presuming this area down the side here is missing is because of the air-to-air refueling probe, which is on this one, which is there. Different set of wheel wells, obviously because these are bigger holes for bigger ones to go in, which funny enough are these guys here. Okay, and then obviously doors and closing in. It all looks pretty good, I have to say. We've got bits of plastic everywhere. All right, and everything else. The small parts all look very, very nice and generally going in there. And then down here, we've got the wheels, so obviously a lot bigger wheels and everything else like that. Inner separate hubs for the brakes. So we've got the actual braking system here. The outers are moulded in, and then an assortment of laser and satellite guided bombs as you're going right the way through. And this is the kit I think you stick on this guy as well to turn it into the fin kit for it, and then generally coming along, and there's our refueling probe for the inside. So apart from the fact that we haven't got any instructions for it, which is a bit of a blow because I would like to have seen it, obviously John will have to put this one together blind. Never mind. Okay, last up we have the canopy. Okay. Right, okay, now in reality, as we all know, this is a one-piece canopy. The entire thing lifts up, which looks a bit strange because it has a bar on it going across it. The bar, which is correct, is on the inside and not the outside, so it is one piece smooth on the outside. The only thing you might notice, we've got loads of wobble on this. It's not the best canopy in the world. It's pretty, as you manoeuvre it around, it looks like you're looking through water. So it's not the clearest in the world. Looking across it though, it does look pretty good. I think if you've got this one open, you're going to get away with it. If you've got it shut with a figure in it, it might be a little bit wobbly. We've got the little camera or sensor cameras for the fronts and the sides, and then we've got a couple of little nav lights in there which don't look too bad. The nice thing is we haven't got a centre seam running right the way through the middle here to worry about or anything else like that, and it has got a nice edge on it so we can mask easily to it. So from the point of view of being a little bit of a wobble, I think I'd rather have that than a whacking great centre seam running down it and nothing to actually mask against. So actually that's not too bad. So there we go. Unfortunately, as I said, we can't look at the instructions today because we haven't got any. But that gives us our F-35C Lightning II. Is it an improvement on the other ones? I have to say, I think the quality of the mould from the fuselage and the wing set, things like that, definitely looks to be a little bit sharper than the other one. Because to be honest, I have got the F-35B over there. We've reviewed it before and everything else. So from that point of view, it does look like a bit of an improvement. Let's just hope they've sorted out those fit issues, because quite frankly, the other one's got lots of them. Well, some instructions would be nice. So yes, no instructions, which is a little bit of a letdown. I haven't heard if they are around or they just forgot to put them in or anything else like that. So, but anyway, as I say, Kitty Hawk, it's that thing. 1 minute they're just about getting there, and then oh, well, there's something going on. Never mind. Let's have a look at the Cougar and see if it's any better. Okay, in this particular review, we've got the Kitty Hawk 1/48 scale. This is the TF9J Cougar. Now, I don't think we've actually seen one of these before as in a full run kit. We've seen limited runs and resin, certainly in styrene. So, we've got some nice box art on the front, showing the usual things down here. So again, it's showing their Elite Force series and everything else. So on the box art, you can see there we've got one from Cougar of H&M S13 in Vietnam, 4 different marking options. Okay, kit number KH80129. Showing we get a little bit of photo etch in there, is quite nice, and the usual things, and it's a 2014 kit. So in the box we get Oof, right, okay, we're back to this horrible blue styrene that we saw on the Voodoo kit, which is depressing me already because I'm now wondering what it's going to be like. So we have various screws down in here. I'm just going to hoof them out of the box. We've got some instructions, which is quite nice this time. Some various parts there. We've got the canopy, some photo etch, the book there from Detailing Scale again, and also we've got a ball, which I'm assuming is going to be nose weight. Okay, so right off the bat, as you can see here, we've got a little bit of photo etch. So we've got some details you can probably see down here for the instrument panel, some harnesses. We've got the fences, I assume, for the sides and everything else, and we get a ball. So we've got a ball there, which I presume is for the actual nose weight. So in the book itself, we've got down here is going to be one of our nice big fold out jobs. So as you can see down here, very nice. This is a 2-seater Cougar, so it gives it a slightly different appearance as it goes through. Okay, everything else down in here, it's got the sidewinders there, the tanks for the call out and everything else, obviously in full colour. And one would assume we'll get it at the back, which is quite nice. So we've got some nice options back here for it, obviously for the training scheme. And we've got down here, we've got for the Blue Angels, which is a very nice touch. And we've got down here as well for the Argentinian Navy, which again is a nice surprise. I must admit, I wasn't expecting that one. All right, so we've got the paper instructions, as you can imagine down here. Colour callouts is quite nice because they're federal standard numbers, so that's a nice easy one to follow and everything else. So usual thing, straight in with the seat. We've got some photo etch parts for the harnesses we saw earlier go on the seat. Photo etch parts as well, which obviously you've got to paint, but you've got the sort of detail there, and you've got a decal which goes over the top of them, so that takes care of that problem. Control sticks going in, instrument panels, again decals for your instrument panels, and then straight off down in here we've got the actual cockpit being installed, various things on. We've got sides to go on, which would be nice. We'll have a look at those details in a moment. Nose wheel gear being put in and going together. Then we've got obviously that section in there, nose weight. So it doesn't say anything about that ball being for nose weight. It just says nose weight. Okay, so I'm looking out for a ball in these instructions somewhere now. Okay, usual parts going in. So you've got the front edge, front end of it completely, obviously it's a 2-seater. One would imagine then later on the single seater is going to come out as well. Okay, funny way of doing it, admittedly, but we're going to build up the wheel wells, put them into like a belly pan for this. Because the shape of the Cougar has that sort of blended wing, you know, it's interesting to see how companies get around that problem. Okay, so we've got on here is the folded wings section, obviously for the Cougar being a Navy aircraft can fold up. Okay, going in there we've got all the parts going in, we've got the doors, outer doors going in, the exhaust system going in the tail, which is a separate fit, which is now filling me with dread for all these seam lines are going to be everywhere. Okay, and then obviously the wings going on. We've got a sort of flapper on system with these putting in there. So you can either have the wings in the folded up position, and why the hell you would do that, because how you're going to get in there to take care of this seam is well, beyond belief. Okay, or you can have it down. If you do, you're going to need cutting this tab off. The back part goes on, so you can get it worse now, so it's in multiple sections, all of this thing. And then we've got these actual, the spoilers for the top there going on there. Front end going on, which looks so easy to do. I just imagine it's not going to be that easy. Okay, and then we've got the canopy, front canopy going on there, the weapons racks, and the actual things. So we've got your sidewinders going on there, normal rocket pods and fuel tanks. And then you've got a nice little loadout chart down here. Okay, and those marks. Why do I not sound convinced? Let's just say we've been slightly let down on the last couple, and not anywhere to see anything about a ball bearing, so you never know, it could be part of it. So anyway, I won't get all these out because we know them. I'll have a look around on the close-up. As you can see, I don't know who's doing these decals, but I don't like the colour of the US Navy ones. I don't know. So if they're supposed to be sort of, you know, sort of Blue Angels, that's definitely the wrong yellow. It looks far too pale. In fact, all of it does. When you're looking at all of these, they don't look very nice. Shark's mouth, bonus, big thumbs up. That said, the instrument panel ones are quite nice, as you can see with them running down there. The Argentinian flag looks okay. The actual stars and bars all look good, and obviously general writing doesn't look too bad anyway. It's just the Blue Angels ones, I don't know, I imagine by the time you poke them on, they're going to fade out as well. Okay, so if we start at the front end, separately bagged, but obviously they're a little bit thin. I don't know which way you'd start up on this one. I presume this is the top side. So the thing is, the plastic has changed from the last review we just did on the F-35C to this one again. This one is more chunky. You know, it just doesn't look as sharp. It's not as refined as what we've just seen in the last review if you've just watched it live on the show. This one just seems that little bit heavy, chunkiness, a little bit flashy, and everything else. That said, the level of detail is pretty good. We've got some nice riveting down here, which seems to be all in scale. All right, it's a little bit wavy, but it is all there. Okay, and just generally looking over these parts, they don't look too bad at all. This bottom edge, hopefully you can see it, camera's a little bit close, you can see we've got some nice latches as well moulding in, some nice ones. I haven't seen them done like that before. They're very nice, they stand out, they're pretty good. Okay, generally looking around, there's nothing much to see on this one because everything's going to have photo etch attached to it. We're looking okay. Looking at the seats, a little bit of a stress mark down on here, but generally going around okay. But again, this part here, which is this centre back area, looks pretty good. Nice riveting, recessed panel lining looks good. The way it clips in will be interesting, that's what I'm going to say. Okay, on that one. Unfortunately, these speed brakes look like a badly made waffle. Okay, they're very soft, to the point of horrible actually from the inside. From the outside they don't look too bad, but if you wanted them open they would be a bit nasty. Cockpit tab, things like that, there's nothing to talk about because it's all going to be photo etch in a moment. So, just trying to work out which would be the best to look at. Let's do this one next. See, these staples only just make it. Talk about get a bag to fit. Okay, so again, one piece pull out in here, so we just have that off. That's because somebody couldn't be bothered to cut it. Okay, so generally looking at this isn't too bad. It's getting better. Nice detail on this one. It's a little bit, you know, textured on the mold and everything else, but we've got some nice detail. All of this control, the actual surfaces, the access panels, things like that, as you can see here. The riveting going off in here, all looks pretty nice, very sharp. You know, the panel lining doesn't fade off, it goes to where it's supposed to go, which is quite a nice touch. These smaller parts we're going to work across the top, as you can see. A little bit of flash here and there, you know, we're not saying it's flash free, but it's easy cleanup, it's not a problem. I've got the seat down here, which doesn't have a huge mould mark in it, and for the other one, we've actually got the sides a little bit softly moulded, shall we say, but we're not too bad. And then we've got another type of ejector seat, so we've got two types there. Looks like a Mark 7 over there. This one's definitely not. Okay, and then just generally round. The wheel is a little bit soft, nothing really you'd write home about, to be honest, down in there and going through. Generally not too bad. It looks like somebody's also made an attempt on this one, which is quite nice, to do some ejector pin cleanup, to actually clean them off and everything else, although he must have forgot this bit because he hasn't bothered on that one. So you've got huge ones there. It does seem to be, if I'm honest, you get this thing. You look at this side, really sharp, very nice. You look at this side and it's like, yeah, well, nobody's going to see it. So that's what they've literally done. It's a case of dodgy builders. I don't want to see that, don't worry about it. Okay, so in here, have to say the gear's looking a little bit softly moulded, if we're honest, and everything else. Working our way down, it's just missing the beat a little bit. It just looks soft, if you like, but major parts like this guy down here, you can probably see it catching it in the light. All of this detail on this is pretty good. It's very nice, it's very sharp. So it makes you wonder why it's so bad on this bit, but that bit's good. It's a bit like whoever's in charge of the fuselage, no problem at all. He's a professional. The guy doing the rest of it, it's like, oh, that'll do. It's just a shame because it's almost there. It's getting better. And I know I shouldn't pick on them because obviously they are getting better. They are relatively new and everything else. It's just, you know, I don't know, just a little bit lack of care, just that little bit more. Give us another $10 worth of detail and I think it would really make this better. You know, they're trying hard. You can see down here it's very limited ejector pin mark in this nozzle area because that would be a nightmare to clean up. So at least they are trying. It's just in some places you think, why have you done that? Okay, but there we go, we are getting there, certainly looking better. The wings, always a good one to tell. So in here, if we just break this guy apart, he wants to, he does. Okay, looking at the general wing detail, if we start down here, as you can see, that's absolutely lovely. This is nice, this is sharp detail down here. This means it will be so much better to paint it and work with it. We've got beautiful riveting detail down here with the different styles as it makes its way through. Okay, generally this wing, you can see it there. That's nice, that's pretty good stuff. You know, don't take any notice about this, it should be there because that's photo etch is going to run down this groove, which is a nice touch. It's not like you just lay it on the top. There's a groove for the photo etch, it'll make it so much easier to go on and go in. But again, it's perfect, I can't fault it, it's completely faultless, this control surface. Very nice, all of this, no problem with it at all. And as I say, you catch it in the light, it does look really, really good. No problem with it at all. Okay, and then you come over here and again, it's just a little bit softly moulded. This is where the gear goes in. I assume that's like soundproofing or something down in there. Okay, but we are looking pretty good. As I say, all these parts here, all very nicely cleaned up, no problem at all. Been no fit issues with those at all, and this is a good sprue. So in some ways it's like perfect sprue, really nice sprue. Other things, terrible. Again, looking at this detail, it's absolutely lovely. If you see that, all of these little leading edge ones, absolutely perfect. No problem at all with it. Absolutely love it. All very, very good. Okay, as you can see, it's all beautifully done, which is a lovely touch. And again, all of these been cleaned up, taken care of, to making sure you've got no fit issues, obviously, when you put it together and everything else. So I have no problem with that at all. That's a really nice sprue. Okay, and last up we have the weapons fit. Admittedly, the sidewinders are a little bit chunky. Okay, the fuel tank's quite nicely done. We've got all recess panel lining with this detail, and you might be able to see it's all got riveted and everything else. Got the top part down there, some more sidewinders, the rocket pods and everything else. It's just, this feels really thick. It's not light, it's not crispy, it's not detailed. It actually weighs a lot as well, this plastic. It feels quite oily as well, so I'd recommend giving it a wash before you started work with it. But again, there's nothing you could actually complain about off the bat. These pylons, as you can see, very nice, no problem with those at all. And just looking down here for these rocket pods, you know, they actually look pretty good. I can't see any faults with this really at all. It's just that the actual little bits around it. Okay. And the last bag, which obviously you can see what's going to happen with this one at some point. I imagine there's another sprue here, okay, which has the single canopy on it. Anyway, looking through, unfortunately the centre seamer is back. A little bit of flash on this one, which isn't a problem, easy cleaner, but you have got quite a nasty wobble all through this if we do the wobble check, as you can see, and we do have a whack and grey seam line running right through the middle of it. So that will take some cleaning out, as you can see it running through there. So it is going to need a sand over and go through. Apart from that, it's quite sharp. It's actually quite a thin part. It's not bad at all. The front one, I've got no problem at all with that. That's absolutely perfect. Even on the sides of it aren't too bad. The rear one, okay, it's a thick part, but I don't think many people are going to be staring down that one. And all the small parts, again, beautifully done, nicely done, all of those, no problem, crisp and clear. No air pockets or anything else in there. Definitely a kit of two halves. You know, as I said, I don't like to knock a kit, and definitely this is definitely one of those ones where you could really love to hate it. Why some things are done, it's overcomplicated. The way it goes together, having it as the front half, I can understand. Don't get me wrong, no problem with that at all. It's going to have a single seat version coming out in the near future. Get you. Why then make the back end so complicated? If you're going to do it, you know, do it like an F16 where it's one piece all off the back and then you go. But because you've got the front, the mid and the rear section, that's a lot of seam lines to take care of, and obviously this is where it comes in. I haven't built this, I've got no idea how it goes together. I hope to God it's a dream fit, because if it's not, those are big wide open seam lines that are going to take a lot of care to put right and to take care of. So it'd be one of those things of sanding, filling, checking, sanding, filling, checking until you get it right, because it's on a flat surface. It's a big one. And to be honest, F16s, Hasegawa F16s were the bread and butter of doing an F16 kit. Then I think it's Revell came along with the first one where they actually did the F16 with the wings and the top of the fuselage all in one piece. Brilliant idea. Tamiya's 148 came along, wrote all the rules about doing F16s and doing large pieces on the back. That's why it is. There's a reason for it, and that's because it just aids the modeler and makes it for a more enjoyable build. The bit where you've got multiples to get it in there, it's a real problem. I know why you've done it, don't get me wrong. It's a complex part, complex curves, trying to get the riveting all square and 90 degree into the plastic is incredibly difficult on a complex curve, so I do understand the reasons for it. It's just from a modeling point of view, that would scream nightmare to me all over to put that together. But we are modelers. This is what we do. It's just going to take a little bit more time and a little bit more patience. That's if it's a good fit and all goes together. If it doesn't go together and it's a nightmare, then it's going to be a nightmare fit to get that right. It'd be one of those things, plasticard shims, plenty of filler, plaster it, worry about rescribing it and re-riveting it afterwards once it's all together. So there we go. That is the Kitty Hawk 2-seat Cougar. Okay, so there we go. That's the Cougar. As I said, again, it's just almost there. They are so close to making good kits. It's almost bloody annoying. You know, you could almost grab hold of them and say, for God's sake, spend another 3 months work on it and throw another, you know, $10 per kit. People will pay it. If it's good, people will pay it. Look at Tamiya stuff, you know, and all the rest of it. I know companies are trying to build to a particular price. You know, let's face it, I'm in business as well, and I work to those type of levels as well. But I'm sure if you've got a good product and everything else, people won't mind paying just that little bit extra for a little bit more time spent, and obviously trying to get things right. And certainly, you know, the ejector pin marks when they're almost busting through, the plastic being quite soft in some areas against others, I'm sure it's time, you know, that's it. A little bit more time spent, I'm sure it would work absolute wonders. That said, 2 cracking kits, very nicely detailed. The level of detail on that fuselage system, basically of both of them, but especially on the Cougar, the riveting is absolutely exquisite and is on a par of any other manufacturer out there. It just tends to be, the sprues tend to be just a little bit clunky and not as refined and as delicate looking as everything else. And I know we're just talking, you know, we're slightly nitpicking with it, but certainly it's just that thing of like fantastic body, you know, and actual fuselage system and the wing detail, and then you just come along from other parts and you think, you know, the air brakes looks like a badly made waffle. So unfortunately, not exactly brilliant. So there we go, that's those kits reviews. Hopefully we'll have more great reviews next week, and it certainly won't be from Kids York as we go through. Anyway, the other thing we had finished last week, we had the Tiger SIG finished on the site, and I must admit, 14 entries, which, let's face it, isn't massive on the great scale of things when we normally have sort of 300 entries into, you know, the crew builds, things like that. But certainly the quality was absolutely stunning. So I'm going to leave you this week with actually the photos from the actual review and everything else like that. So until next week, everybody, and from Flory Model and Flory Girl, shall I say, happy modelling and take care. And here's the final reveal SIG from the Tiger build.